Right, this week's Street Talk then.
Oh my God.
What?
Right
then, let's get on with this. I thought it was quite good this week. I enjoyed it. I mean, that Monday's episode was certainly the highlight for me. Tonight's was pretty good as well. Wednesday's been a bit meh, but I absolutely loved Monday's episode. It was one of those ones that I went back and rewatched some scenes from it, which I don't usually do. So I'm looking forward to talking about that. And it is mostly, if not solely, because of the Tyrone Has a Pop storyline, which was superbly played by Jennie and Alan this week. So I'm looking forward to having a good old chinwag about that. Then we've got the Leanne story. It's not really size supplies anymore, is it? So we came up with a new hashtag on Twitter this evening that went down well, which is the Leanne of Duty, because she's going to be a chiz, Gemma.
Yeah, it's a chiz.
You know all about that.
A chizzer.
This is a new term that we've learnt in the past week, isn't it? Because
us and everybody else.
A new series of Line of Duty started on Sunday, and they were going on about chizzes all the time.
Nobody knew what they were talking about.
Who was it that told me? There was somebody.
The announcer at the end.
No. Somebody on Twitter said who it was, but maybe it was Jane Tunnicliffe who played Yana. I think she said that's who I learnt it off first. But yeah, a chiz is somebody.
It was so ridiculous.
What does it stand for?
Covert Human Intelligence Source or something like that. But it was somebody on... So all the way through, they're like, oh, we need to find the chiz gov. Oh, no, the chiz is gone. Or, oh, where's the chiz? Oh, the chiz is going to die or something. And then at the end, the announcer was like, tune in next week for more Line of Duty. By the way, in case you wondered, a chiz is a cove. It's like, why are you telling me
nice
now?
To have a little glossary at the back, isn't it?
Yeah, I've actually got a picture on the iPad of all of the terms that we need to remember.
Oh, that'll be good for this Sunday when it's on.
Luckily, what?
No, I was just saying they should just, at the beginning of the episode...
Yeah, just tell everybody.
These are the terms that you might be confused by in this evening's episode of Line of Duty.
Like a new copper join in the first episode, and they'll be like, I'm confused, what's going on? And then they get shot in the head.
Yeah.
But luckily you don't need to know any weird words.
Anyway, we're not talking
acronyms.
about Line of Duty. This isn't a Line of Duty podcast.
We're going to get told off.
I've got no idea what went on Sunday's episode.
We're going to get told off like we got told off when we talked about Game of Thrones.
That's the second
minutes.
Storyline, the Leanne of Duty. But I had a load of other rubbishy storyline titles for that, didn't I? When I deleted them, I thought I'd remember.
That you deleted them all, and now I feel like
the other option that I remembered was Lee Harvey Drugs Sold, which sounds a bit like Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah, you're like Lee, as in Leanne.
Harvey, yeah.
Harvey, as in Harvey the drugs person.
Yeah. And
drugs sold, as in Oswald.
Yeah, that's where it falls down a little bit, but it's close. We had a bit of telesales and marketing, which is still my favourite pun of the moment. That one just keeps on giving.
It's not a classic, but it's pretty good.
Now, last week on the podcast, I think it's nice. Last week on the podcast, we asked for listener suggestions for the trolling storyline, and I said,
just so you know, we're always open to suggestions.
Absolutely, please. It saved me so much hours of work.
You don't understand. Michael's probably spends 50% of his podcasting work load.
I wouldn't say 50%.
Trying to come up with puns and rhymes and.
It's.
I don't know how you came up with Lee Harvey Drug Sold. How did you come up with that?
I set myself up. Why do we have to have puns for storyline titles?
I said to you at the time.
They're rubbish. I know they're rubbish. Anyway, somebody kindly said that we could combine troll and ollie with trollololololly.
Trollololololly.
Trollolololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololololol sticking with it. For the Todd storyline this week, they called it Groundhog Gay in the story itself, so we'll just take that one on. But it just seems to be a little bit of Billy and Todd and Paul kind of circling that.
Well, this is what I said. I said Groundhog Gay is a great name for the Weatherfield washing machine, but with those characters.
Yeah. Here we go again.
Yeah.
We got the fostering storyline.
Oh,
definitely
how sweet.
happening, Gemma. Again, not so good. I called it Their Kelly instead of Our Kelly. Oh, I can't think of anything. Sorry. And then we had a tiny bit of Who's the Granddaddy as well.
Can you imagine at Christmas they're going to have like baubles with all their faces on them? You know, the Imran, Toya, and Kelly will have like a bauble. Don't you think that Toya's the kind of person who'd be like, oh yeah, we're going to do Christmas cards with us on the front?
Maybe.
I'm gonna make her a rattan backpack to take her work to school with.
Well, we'll find out, won't we?
I hope she likes tofu. Well, she's going to regret this.
Tofu. Imran loves tofu. Did you see his face when he heard what they were having for tea tonight in Friday's episode? Yeah.
Rocks. That rocks.
Tyrone has a pop. So, Monday was the big episode for Tyrone and Fiz. I absolutely loved it. And it starts off with Fiz none the wiser as to Ty's, well, what he's been getting up to behind her back, basically. And she's there making him a nice lunch. She's got this wedding in Greece book that she wants to tell him about. And she starts off. No, it's not booked by the beginning of Monday's episode, is it?
She booked.
She's looking at it on Friday, I think, and on Monday's episode, she opens the laptop up and this Greek music suddenly starts playing. It was like that. It was like Holly's music box, wasn't it? I said it sounded like she was watching Greek porn.
Yeah, it was a bit.
Oh, Ty's gone to work at last.
I don't know is that a genre? I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway, she's very excited by it, whatever it is.
I looked up, you can get a Greek wedding holiday package for about £700 up to £2,000.
Yeah, affordable.
Fairly affordable.
Yeah. Ches comes over later and he says, "Look, just go ahead with it." Most men don't like the idea of this kind of thing. If somebody said, if Gemma said to me, "Let's get married in Greece," I'd be like, "That sounds like a lot of work." But if it's all sorted for me, I'd be all in.
Surely destination weddings are like the easiest no-brainer thing to do.
You don't have to invite anyone.
Well, no. You just say you got to pay for yourself.
Yeah. Anyway, he says that when Ty finds out the wheels are in motion, he'll be chuffed. So Fiz clicks that button and orders the holiday. Meanwhile, Abby finds Alina's jumper at the garage from when she was there getting a car sorted last week, and Tyrone jumps at the chance to deliver it back to her, which Abby teases him about because she thinks that Tyrone is a little bit sweet on young Miss Pop.
Well, the thing is, people keep teasing him about this as though it's impossible that there would be anything between them, and it sort of becomes this whole storyline is one of these storylines that means something different to everyone who watches the show. I've heard so many different opinions about this storyline, and some of them have really surprised me because I didn't have that perspective on it, but we'll talk about it in a bit. Okay. But lots of characters are kind of taking those different angles, aren't they, to sort of represent different.
Yeah.
And one of the main ones is, what the hell does he think he's playing at with Alina Pop?
So he goes over with his jumper to the flat, and then Seb comes up as well, and he kind of realises that Tyrone is the person that Alina fancies and not him. So, meanwhile, Fiz is at the garage looking for Tyrone because she was going to do a grand surprise of the reveal that she's booked this wedding, and she wants to keep it a secret, but she still manages to blab to Kevin and Abby about it. Meanwhile, Tyrone is telling Seb, "There's nothing going on between me and Alina, but please don't tell anyone about it. Yeah. It's a secret. You're absolutely wrong, but yeah, if you say anything, you're dead, basically." But
upset.
Anyway, it was just one stupid kiss. So we kind of, drops himself in a little bit, really. He heads back to the garage, where Abby's there kind of hiding away. Kevin's disappeared off for the scene for some reason, and Fiz is there waiting to spring this surprise on Tyrone. She tells him about the wedding, but doesn't quite get the reaction that she was expecting. And his kind of the lack of response from Tyrone tells Fiz everything that she needs to know about whether it was a good idea or not. So she goes home really upset. She thought that he was going to jump at the chance, but he's just like, nothing. So sad. Poor Fiz. I feel so bad for Fiz on Monday, sorry. But then we have this epic fallout scene, and my notes for this so long. So this was like, how long was this scene? 9, 10, 11 minutes long or something like that? This is a super, super long scene, and Coronation Street never does this. But
and the background information?
18 pages long. No rehearsal.
No, one take.
One take.
Now, if this doesn't convince you that soap actors, especially Coronation Street actors, aren't bloody hardworking and very, very talented, then I don't even know why you're watching Coronation Street. Loved this scene. This is so good. This is like back to basics, bare knuckle acting.
Yeah.
And one of these timeless like conundrums of like human existence, a married couple who have lost their spark. This story could have been in a 1960 episode. This is such a classic human problem that's very relatable to lots of people. Not to us, of course. Our marriage is full of magic.
So well written. So like halfway through it, we kind of looked at it. I kind of looked at it and I was like, they're really doing a good job of this, aren't they? Like, yeah, they are.
Very
and
then
I was just so glad that it got a roaring standing ovation on the old social media.
Of course, that some people didn't like it. But some people don't like Alan Titchmarsh, like me. I think he's smug.
So what happened was, Fiz is like, what was that all about? She wants to know. She's felt utterly humiliated by this because she gave this grand. It's not a proposal because they've already been engaged for 5 years, as they pointed out a couple of times. She's this grand gesture, and it was basically thrown back in her face. And then she starts going, "What's going on? Is it what's happened between us? Is it about the sex?" And it's so kind of awkward, isn't it?
Yeah, it was really cringy.
Or the lack
She's like,
of sex, should I say?
About the sex.
She says, "I do fancy you. Honestly, we just don't have time. We just, with the girls on work and everything."
I felt really bad for her here because it's like she's like, sorry I don't service you and your mighty penis, but I'm doing the laundry and the cooking. Maybe if you did some of the things around the house, you might get a bit more, sex.
He says. No, he doesn't say anything. She says, "Is it about that?" And he doesn't say anything.
No.
And
she says, "I still fancy you," and I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah, she says that, but he doesn't say, "I fancy you" back.
No.
And then she's like, "Well, what do you think?" And he starts saying, "Oh yeah, it's so tired," and the girls and everything. And she's like, "Don't just say what I say back. Tell me what you really think."
Yeah.
And that was a line that was very well observed, I think, and I'm sure I'm very much
guilty.
Yeah. when Gemma and I are having to have serious heart to hearts. Quite often,
I'll be like,
maybe unintentionally.
What do you think?
I just literally I repeat back. So that I really,
it's really hard. So this is why it's such a great scene because no matter
so
what your
real.
Relationship is like, and no matter if you've got children or if you've got a housekeeper, you live in a castle, you have sex every day, whatever,
you're gonna turrets.
You fall off.
Carry on in the moat.
You're going to have a moment where you have to have a discussion about something that's not going well.
It was just so cringingly awkward for Tyrone, and I think when you're kind of under attack a little bit like that, as he should be, you just don't know what to say, and you think that by telling your partner back what they're saying, that it's like yes, I agree with you, we're on the same side.
Validating what you're saying, and you're like going, no, you're not. You're just trying to get out of thinking for yourself.
Yeah, so that's when he says, "Look, I think we're stuck." That he talks about. It says there's no excitement, no happiness.
Oh, that's horrible.
So harsh. And then around this time, she realizes that somebody else is making him happy, and pretty soon twigs that it's Alina. Her first reaction is to laugh a bit. She goes on about this age gap, and he says it's only 15 years. So she's like, "Well, you've obviously been thinking about this, haven't you?"
I think. Yeah.
She says
that's a really good point actually. The fact that he's like, I've added it up, and I think
he's thinking, is this is this okay? So that was a bit awkward. And then she says, "Look, you are kidding yourself if you think that she'd ever be interested in you." And he's like, "Well, we kissed actually." Oh god, it was awful. But poor Fiz. She says, "Do you want?"
This is the bombshell revelation.
Yeah, we had a kiss on the bench. She says, "Do you want to be with her or not?" And she at this point, Jennie's acting at this point. She starts like clutching at her neck, doesn't she? She's like hugging herself because she now feels like
very vulnerable.
Yeah, completely, and almost she looks disgusted and repulsed by the fact that this kiss has happened. It's like
she's outraged, disgusted,
skin's crawling from it, and then she starts saying, "Look, well, I hope you're going to be very happy in your mouldy little flat together because that's all you'll be able to afford. You sad little old man." It was
nice one.
And then the kind of the tension is broken by Chesney coming round. He just comes to the front door when Tyrone goes to get it. Chesney just says, "Look, how's things going? Have you convinced? What is this? Did he say? Has she convinced you to marry you yet? Has she convinced you to marry her yet?" And Tyrone's like, "We are a long way away from that." So Ches offers to take the kids, pick the kids up from school. And
he realises what Tyrone's been up to.
Yeah, that's right. Happy. Yeah, Chesney starts having a massive go at him. He's disgusted by this. He's
I'll look after the kids for you.
Yeah, doing it for Fiz, not for you. And then when Tyrone goes back into the lounge, Fiz is gone, and that is the end of our epic scene.
I'd be worried she's going to come out of nowhere with a chopping board if I was her.
I know, she's got form, hasn't she? Meanwhile, Seb is telling Alina that Abby's filled him in on all the hoo-ha at the garage earlier with the wedding announcement and everything. And he's like, "Is this anything to do with you?" And she's starting to get really angsty about the situation, so goes to go and see Tyrone in the garage. She says, "Look, she says she wants to see if he wants to be with her." This is why she goes along there to see, look, what's going on? Where do I stand here? Tyrone finds Fiz in the cafe later, apologises, promises that he cares about her and the girls as well. Says, look, it's all over. Well, it's not over between me and Leanne. Honestly, it never even got started. Don't worry about this. We can get through this, Fiz. He's realised what he stands to lose now, and he's desperately trying to claw his way back in. And she wants to believe him, and he says, "I promise I will do whatever it takes to try and get us through this." So as they head home, because Alina doesn't see Tyrone that episode, does she? She doesn't get to chat with him. That's Wednesday. That's right. She just sees him. She's standing by the pillar box and sees him looking all sad going into the house, and then he goes inside and sits on the stairs and looks very, very guilty. Wednesday,
whoops.
Tyrone's trying to act all normal. Like, again, this really kind of was very relatable when you have an argument.
You do this.
I do this. We've had an argument. Believe it or not, it happens.
Guess what? I'm the one that holds the grudge.
Who'd have thought that? So the next
Sometimes
day...
I can't even remember why I'm mad.
Like, I always, when Gemma and I have arguments, try to
you're the best.
make up by the time I go to bed. Like, we
don't very often go to bed angry with each other.
We don't often, but sometimes we do. And then like, I never see you in the morning because I have to go off to school. And then I come back and I maybe send you a few nice texts during the day, and then I come home and like, "Hi, I had a nice day today," and it's like, oh gosh, I don't know where we stand.
Oh, Michael, you're me. I know this whole storyline is making me feel really bad. I know everyone thinks I'm a terrible person who listens to this, but they do. We've had reviews saying, "Oh, this lady is so mean to her husband. You don't know what he does."
I asked for
to
it.
Me.
It's all those Romanian nail technicians that I snog. I deserve it.
Look, everyone has a different relationship, and honestly, a lot of the stuff we talk about on the podcast and the way we joke with each other is just like hamming stuff up for your entertainment. In real life, obviously.
But we do have arguments.
We never have arguments.
It felt... what we were watching
disrespecting me?
No, of course
we
not.
We never have arguments.
It just felt so... I think that's why I enjoyed it so much.
I think almost every single person who's been in a long-term relationship can look at some elements of this and go, this is familiar. Yeah.
Fiz sees right through his attempts to pretend that nothing's gone wrong.
This is what we keep saying when we say Coronation Street leads long-term couples like this.
Yeah.
Because this is the sort of thing that comes from investing years of your life with somebody. And it's not quite the same thing as breaking up after, you got married because you saw someone got shot in a box at Christmas. Then you get married and then you fall out because somebody shagged somebody else in a year. It's not quite the same thing, is it? No. Because you get to a stage where you start to wonder, am I taking them for granted? Am I being taken for granted? Is this all there is? And you don't. If you get to that stage in a year, you really probably shouldn't have got married in the first place.
No, I mean Tyrone and Fiz have been together for what, 8 years now? They've been together
for a long, long time, but 8 years is still pretty good.
For Coronation Street.
Well, we keep saying they're a long-term couple. I think a lot of people would say 8 years isn't super, super long, but I don't want to put, I don't want to say anything bad about 8 year long relationships, because I think once you get past a certain amount of years, 8 years, 10 years, 15, Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they feel right together, very, very right.
They do. It feels, that's what I'm trying to say. It feels like they've been together a lot longer than those years. Yeah. Because they really just seem very right for one another.
Yeah, they're very, very comfortable, which is maybe part of the problem. Yeah. She says, look, this pain is not going anywhere, a bit like Gemma's sore arm this week.
Oh, don't remind me. Oh, my arm.
She says, I'm not going to go and speak to Alina about this, because if she whimpered out an apology, I'd probably choke her on it.
I know, she gets really violent.
Fiz was fantastic this week. I mean...
Oh, I'm so
Spoiler
sorry.
alert, but nobody's going to come along and take her away from being my character of the week this week. Sorry. We have a great little showdown in the street between Fiz and Alina as well. She's like, I want a word with you. So her decision to not have it out with Alina
think I'd run away if I was Alina.
Scene. I know. Tyrone, back over at work, admits to Kevin what's happened and says, I want to stay with Fiz. And Kev's like, well, if you want to think about you need to think hard about what you want. He doesn't Which is,
well, this was weird. This was another one.
This was a scene where everybody watching saying, "Are you going to mention Molly or not?"
Yes, exactly. This was one of these unspoken character history moments where you felt there was something missing. Like with Leanne and Jez Quigley and all of that stuff, still didn't mention it.
No, I'm waiting.
She had an opportunity to today and she didn't take it. This would have been a really... Because these guys have ruined each other's lives, basically. Well, Kevin ruined Tyrone's life, because the history there is that Kevin slept with Molly, who was Tyrone's wife, behind his back, and they had a baby together, which is Jack. And Tyrone thought Jack was his baby.
Yeah, and
when she was first born.
Didn't get brought up. Who did Kevin compare it to?
But you know, Kevin would be like, if I was Kevin, I'd be like, oh, Mr. Holier Than Thou.
Yeah.
You know, and if I was Tyrone, I would have said, are you calling me a homewrecker like what you did to me? I don't think so, you know. And really, honestly, this should have stopped him in his tracks. Because if he thinks back to how devastated he was when he found out about that affair, he would... I don't see how he could pursue... I can understand... I really can... I sympathise with people, I don't understand it, who are in a relationship and they suddenly decide they don't want to be with the other person and because they've fallen in love with somebody else. I will never ever forgive anybody for cheating on their partner when they're still with them. There's literally no excuse. There's no excuse for it. And I don't see how you can justify it. And surely, just even seeing Kevin's face would make Tyrone go, yeah, this ain't good.
Yeah, you're right. The comparison that they bring up is Tyrone says, what's the age difference between you and Abby? Because Kevin mentions that's it. Kevin's like, look at the age difference. And Tyrone says, look at the age difference between you and Abby. What he should have said was, look about the age difference between you and Molly when you were out jogging with her. Yeah,
jogging.
So anyway, Alina...
That's not part of the NHS 30-day couch to 30 days. He did 30 days to the couch.
Yeah.
Where he started shagging her.
We then have a great scene between Alina and Fiz in the cafe where she is swearing to Fiz that she doesn't mean it to happen. And Fiz is like, she's so hard-faced. She cries at the end of the scene, but she's trying to keep it together and act like, you know... She's the tough one.
She was just vengeance, like
she's not having any of this.
No
I loved her line that was, what'd she say? I'm going to smear you across the cobbles or something. Or a couple of years ago I'd have smeared you across the cobbles. I loved it because Fiz used to be a bit like that. I mean, she's settled down as a lot more kind of maternal and homely and everything now, but she was harder.
I tell you what,
when Molly came into it, speaking of Molly, she was terrified of Fiz because Fiz used to bully her at school. And I always like it when the characters who used to be hard just get a little twinkle of that again, like we've seen a little bit with Leanne recently as well.
I'm just going to say that I think we lost most of those style of characters. You know, those real hard case women who were terrifying.
Yeah, who
would beat you up.
Yeah, who is there at the moment?
Gemma, Bernie.
They're not quite the same, is
it? They wouldn't do that now anyway. I think they've mellowed as well.
Yeah, and they need somebody else. They need a new
Kelly.
one.
She'd probably beat you up.
What about Sharon? Sharon the drugs.
Oh yeah, Sharon would.
Yeah, she'd smear Alina across the cobbles.
But you know what? She'd probably beat you up and then she'd be like, nothing personal.
The other line that Fiz says is, you're a pretty girl, and if you want to stay that way, you better not go near him again, or something like that.
That's really cliche, but quite funny.
I know.
And Alina's just sitting there like, I'm so sorry. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to. Oh, Yeah. She's the worst one out of all of these, because she's like, oh, no, I don't want to have a relationship with Tyrone because of his children. And then the next minute, she's like, blah, 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 blah.
I know.
And the worst part of the whole thing was, it wasn't even like she could just sit on the bench and kiss him. She had to get them to set up those stupid glasses on a stick so they could be socially distanced and do it. Hire two new people. What a lot
of thought went into that, Snog.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is when Alina leaves and Fiz kind of breaks down because she's been having to put on this front to try and save her relationship and make sure that this woman knows to back off. So then
I found this really weird because I was kind of like imagining if this was me in this scene, and when she sat down with her...
Which role are you in?
Well, I'm Fiz.
You're the wrong woman.
I'm the one that's been cheated on with a beautiful younger woman. Because I'm not the young beautiful woman, am I? So I just imagine when she started saying, you better stay away from my man, blah, blah, blah. I was like, God, if that was me, I'd be like, well, Hope you enjoy cleaning dirty underwear and cooking boring pasta dishes for the rest of your life, because I'm going and you can keep him. Sorry, Michael, I would not have you back.
Oh. Do you think Tyrone would appreciate tripe and meatball soup?
Oh,
that's what he'd be getting, isn't it?
Maybe if he dated Seb, that's what he'd be getting. I don't think Alina was that into it. Can you see what I mean? She's really fighting for this relationship.
I can't remember whether it was this episode or Monday's episode where Fiz talks about, like, I look in the mirror and, you know, what I see is not the sort of person that anyone's going to find, you know, sexy or attractive, because she's got a real low self-image, hasn't she?
She's got a very low self-image. They have made Fiz look like this purposefully, and it's okay to talk about this because Jennie McAlpine does not look like Fiz. And I don't want anybody to think that we're body shaming or being horrible about her appearance in the show. It's a very difficult line to walk down when you're trying to talk about these things. But it is silly to pretend that there's not an element of her physical appearance versus Alina's physical appearance and what that means. And I know that people are trying to pretend that attraction has nothing to do with this, but that is not the case at all. And they've deliberately made her look more tired. They're dressing her in unflattering, frumpy clothes. And, you know, we've met Jennie McAlpine before. She is beautiful. She's a stunning woman. And she doesn't look like Fiz. So I don't want anyone to think that when we talk about this, that we're trying to be mean to people. I really don't like talking about what people look like. And you guys hopefully know that from what we've said before. But she just feels, compared to Alina, deeply unattractive and very, very bad about herself. It's not just about him cheating on her. It's about, what does he actually value about me? I thought he didn't care about that kind of stuff. And thinking that about yourself must also be quite dispiriting, you know? But equally, again, she's a working mum with 2 children during a pandemic. She's not that worried about what she looks like. She shouldn't have to be worried about keeping her man on side, putting on a bit of lippy and then your man won't stray. You know what I mean? I know some women, especially, seem to be quite critical of women who let themselves go, in inverted commas. But this is all part of the conversation. This is stuff that we can't skirt around and not talk about because it hurts people's feelings. This is all part of the story. This is why this is a really interesting story to me. I find this very interesting because I feel like a Fiz. I feel like somebody who has let myself go, who doesn't feel attractive and like feels really guilty about it because you've got to live with a slug woman. You don't say anything. Don't say anything.
I think quite often on Coronation Street we watch these stories and it's hard to relate to them, and you can see a story can be good without relating to it, but when you can really see, when you feel all the different elements of it, when you feel the kinship, this is why, can I just also add, this is why representation is important on Coronation Street. This is why when we say about the Baileys being the first black family, and that's really true, actually. It's part of that. It helps you to feel that you're connected in a deeper sense. And human beings are really good at forging connections with people that we don't have much in common with. But there's also that extra level that you're going to reach if you feel yourself represented. Back to the snow. Oh, we had that lovely scene with Kirk as well, and this is one of Kirk's best moments that he's had for a very long time, because they weren't just trying to make him a very good Kirk moment. First. Just because he and Fiz used to date as well, and they just have a nice kind of Bondy scene together, and Fiz says something like, "Oh, I don't know, I didn't realise what I lost when we split up," or something along those lines, because he's just telling her, "You're lovely, Tyrone would be mad to choose Alina over you." Or he starts to compare her hair to a dog, he says, doesn't he? "You look like Lady Mountbatten Windsor or whatever." And I was like, is that some kind of famous red-headed aristocrat? No, it's a thoroughbred dog. But that's a typical Kirk. And that is a typical the really Kirk nice thing about that scene is sweet. That she took it as it was intended, which was as a very high level compliment. Yeah, it was really, really nice stuff. So Alina comes to the garage later and she's mad at Tyrone because he didn't tell her that it all come out to Fiz, and she finds out that Kevin knows it as well, and she's not too chuffed about that. She says, "We need to stay away from each other from this point onwards." Yeah, she's kind of all mad at him. Like, you kissed him in the gardens. Yep. Chesney comes and visits Fiz later.
Not that that's a place on the man's body.
Chesney comes and visits Fiz later, and he reminds her that you've been through a lot, you and Tyrone. You can get through this. She's not sure, though, whether that's what she wants at this point. Chesney.
Okay.
I always love Chesney and Fiz together.
Yeah.
In the factory later, Alina is being shunned by Kirk, and Sally wants the gossip.
This was great because
What's going on,
Kirk's
Kirk?
Normally really nice to everybody, but Alina's like, "Oh, hello, Kirk. Have you got any biscuits?"
Oh yeah.
And he's like, "No, they're all gone," and then he like really obviously puts them in his pocket like. Yeah. That's the worst insult he can think of. And Sally's like,
save him for later.
Oh, what's going on here?
Then
and he tells her.
We have dinner at Speed Dial. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. The dinner at Speed Dial. Tyrone's in the loo and Sally comes in and acts all surprised to hear that they're together.
Tyrone and Fiz have gone to Speed Dial to
try and make up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sally comes in and is a bit gossipy about it, and Fiz gets embarrassed that the word about her very, very personal humiliation is starting to spread. And I mean, now that Sally knows, everyone's going to know about it. She thinks she feels like a mug. She says she feels like a knackered, frumpy, boring mother of two. Alina's everything she's not, and kind of goes home upset.
Obviously I can't relate to this because I'm not a mum, but I do know that a lot of women who are mothers feel like people, not necessarily, well, their circumstances, but also other people try to just put this label of mum onto them. And like, you know, you're just a mum now. You're just that person who looks after the children and that's all you ever will be. And obviously being a mum is something that is a really special thing for lots of people, but equally it can feel really limiting and kind of trapping. So I remember there was a girl who I used to follow on Twitter who had a baby, and she was, you know, lots of people were like, "Oh, hey, how you doing, mama? You know, how's the baby? How are you doing, mum?" and all this stuff. And eventually she's just like, "Can everybody please stop calling me mum and mama and stuff, because I'm still the same person that I always was. I'm not your mum. I'm mum to my kid. I know you guys are trying to be nice and everything, but I'm not just a mum. I'm all I was before, but I'm also a mum on top." And for some reason, we can't cope with that as a society, can we? We like everything that was there before gets replaced.
Now you're defined by the children. Friday, sadly, we didn't get very many scenes. There's only like 4 or 5 scenes from this story on Friday. We have Fiz tells Tyrone that she's asked. She tells Tyrone that Roy's babysitting tonight so they can have a nice evening together. So bless her, she's trying her best to try. She has decided she wants to make a proper go of this.
She feels guilty that maybe she hasn't paid enough attention.
Yeah, and so she organises a nice meal out, but he ends up not being able to go, doesn't he? And
at lunchtime.
At lunchtime he says that he can't go, and she goes to see him at the garage after a little chat with Chesney, and he thinks that she's spying on him. So there's still a bit of suspicion going on here.
This was also when she comes around and she brings him sandwiches at work, and she's like, "Oh, I didn't put piccalilli in them this time," because she's like, that was like a bit of one of these things that like symbolises the whole relationship and all the problems, because she brings him a sandwich, and it's not just that, it's the fact that he doesn't even like piccalilli, and she's like, "Oh, he's just trying to use it up." You know, that is kind of depressing. That is depressing. But also, equally, from her perspective, very practical. And she's got a budget, and she's got children, and there's piccalilli in the jar. And you've got a hungry husband.
And then at the end of the episode, Tyrone comes home and she's cooked him some nice humble pie. He promises he's never going to go near Alina again. And it feels like everything is okay for now.
Because you were saying... You kind of I
got the impression that this story is going to continued. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's over.
I'm going to be really, really upset.
I have also, when I went to this press conference back in February, and
spoilers.
They didn't really talk about anything beyond this week, to be honest. But I just get the impression it's going to go on a little bit longer, and it came to a head so quickly. I mean, in a way, I don't want it to go on for longer, because I love Tyrone and Fiz so much, and I don't like the idea of them splitting up. I want this to be kind of a near miss, and for them to realise that how much they appreciate each other, and then maybe actually get married by the end of the year. But equally, if this turns into a long running affair story or whatever with Tyrone and Fiz and Alina, that's great in a way, because it means we get more Tyrone and Fiz scenes who are very underserved as characters, and it's that they've had the odd story on and off since, you know, the 2012-13 Tyrone and Kirsty story, but not much. So maybe I do want it, but as long as Corrie can guarantee that they'll be back together again, and, you know, have got through it stronger by the end of the year, then I would maybe take an affair story. Because it doesn't feel it's happened so quickly, and the forgiveness is so quickly. I think that the lingering issues are still going to be there.
Well, look, let's just point out what I think perhaps is not obvious, but I don't know, is it? Alina's not the problem, is it? It's not Alina's fault. Alina is like the symptom of something that's rotten in this marriage.
Alina's not, you know, she's not a femme fatale seductress
Alina
who
didn't intend
seduced Tyrone
for this to
away from
happen.
Fiz. No.
And Tyrone got his head turned very quickly by somebody who was just paying him attention. And
at the time when he was saying, like, it wasn't during the big long scene on Monday, like before, when he's like, they were complaining about things that they were getting stuck in a rut and everything. I didn't really believe it, but the way he was describing it during that big long scene on Monday, again, it felt very, very real, and it almost had felt to me before like, oh, they're just engineering these little bits of friction between the two of them so that this could happen. But yeah, the way he was describing it felt horribly real and raw to me.
Yes. I can't, like, I know that some people are sort of saying, I don't like the way that people are talking about, you know, Tyrone's punching above his weight, trying to go after Alina because he's not attractive enough, and, you know, that reflects badly on you if you think that, because it's bad to care about people's looks, and attractiveness is not part of but people's looks shouldn't be a reason that you're with other people, and, you know, that makes you horrible to Fiz because you're saying she's not as attractive as Alina. Sorry, but this is the real world that we live in, and Alina is more attractive than Fiz. She's younger, she's skinnier, she's more attractive, and I wish that
such a cute accent.
I wish that wasn't true, as the complete opposite of that myself, but that's the fact. That's the world that we live in. And the other fact is that you generally find in couples that people will seek out other people that are of the same kind of attractiveness of them. And that's just how things are. Don't tell me that the way somebody looks is not part of what initially attracts you to them and part of why you stay with them, unless you are blind.
Are you calling me slugman?
Literally. No, that's why I'm worried, because you are way more attractive than I am. So,
I think so.
But yeah, but the people
tell me
are saying,
I got long wispy white sideburns just earlier this evening. Thank you.
That's right. Try and make me look like a bad wife. I know I am. I'm taking all of this way too personally. I don't like.
Oh no, it's good that you can. It's really nice that we can take this personally. It's just something.
Do we need to go on a husband and wife retreat?
No, it's all right.
Go camping.
You just want to get out the house.
I know, I do. Hang on. What else was I going to say? Lots of people taking Tyrone's side over Fiz, and this is what you said Jennie McAlpine predicted would happen.
Yeah, at the press day, there were a few things that came out of that. One of them was that I knew that this scene was coming. However, I thought it was going to be the Fiz and Alina scene that was 18 pages long, because Jennie said there's this one scene where it's 18 pages and we just go it in one take, and she was also talking about the Fiz and Alina confrontation during it, and I thought that scene would be that, but I'm really glad it wasn't. No. I think that an 18-page scene between those two wouldn't have hit home as hard, because it's like they never have scenes together. They don't have the history. It was the long history which really came out in the scene, and you can't just shove any two actors together, give them a two-hander and hope to strike gold on it. It was these two that had worked together for so long, and it was fantastic. The other thing was Jennie saying people always take Tyrone's side, but it felt from seeing the social media reaction on Monday that more people were taking Fiz's side, and there was loads of praise for Jennie, and Jennie even came out of her self-imposed Twitter hiding to say thank you to people for for saying all these lovely things about her and
I'm
Alan's
glad
performance.
that she's getting recognition for her.
But yeah, there are definitely still, you know, a portion of people.
Well, this is what I'm saying,
that are on Tyrone's side. And it's fair enough. You can take whoever side you want.
But this is what I'm saying about it. This is why it's a really fascinating story, because depending on where you are in life and what your relationship is like and who you are as a person, and you know, maybe even if you're a man or a woman, it depends on that will change how you see this story. And that's what's really interesting to me, because I saw on our Facebook page quite a lot of people saying, you know, oh, Fiz doesn't deserve Tyrone, she's really mean to him. And that's when it gets upsetting to me, because I can be quite my sense of humour, I think if you don't know me that well and you just listen to my jokes, you would think that I was a really mean person. But that's just I wish I could be funny in a different way. But that's just where my sense of humour is.
I don't think that Fiz is that mean.
I don't think she's.
I think that they're just so comfortable with each other. They've been teasing each other. I've said that. She
was really intensely teasing him, and like the fact that she was laughing at the idea that he and Alina could ever be together before she realised they kissed one another was quite insulting to Tyrone, really.
Yeah, but he's just as bad, because he was teasing Evelyn about Arthur, wasn't he, last year? It's just banter.
I just watched them, and I don't see anything sinister or weird about the way that they interact with one another.
No, nor do I. No.
And maybe some people have different relationships with their partners, because I know some people just, and I don't want to be mean, but some people just do not have a sense of humour, and they don't care about jokes, and they don't make jokes, and they don't really want to hear jokes. But that's not me. And what else? Yeah, I mean, and I haven't heard a lot of people saying that, talking about Alina in this. I don't know what you think about her in this. I think she's really awful. she just doesn't seem to be that important a player in it, which is good in a way, because this is a Tyrone and Fiz story. This is why she just seems
to have got kind of caught up along with it.
I don't want to be like I
don't know what Alina thinks.
Yes, she's a blank space, and that's not trying to be mean about the character, but literally she's like the cipher in this story. She's the you know the thing that Tyrone projected stuff onto. And all it really was somebody's paying attention to me and thinks that I'm a good person. And it is really interesting, because they're both of them. I don't think Tyrone can hold his hand up and say, I spend a lot of time looking after my wife Fiz or my girlfriend Fiz, and I care about her and what she's up to. I think that it feels to me like he expects her to do all the running around after him. She's already, I think, doing quite a lot of the
you get the impression
stuff.
that she's just running the place. He goes out, fixes his cars, comes back.
You've definitely seen him doing stuff with the girls and cooking and stuff, but you know, just on the basis of some might say stereotypes, some might say sexism, some might say actual statistics, you can assume that she's doing the majority of the housework, because factually that's the case for most couples in the country, and it's only got worse over lockdown. So you know why is it her responsibility to keep the magic alive and make sure the piccalilli gets eaten by somebody that isn't Tyrone? You know, I mean, is he that important? Is he the king of the castle that he can't eat some piccalilli and say you look nice today, Fiz? When was the last time he gave her a compliment?
That's what he was doing on Wednesday, wasn't it? Like telling her hair looked nice and everything to try and make it.
Yeah, it was so fake though.
Yeah.
The whole thing, even her bringing him the sandwiches, just felt really rotten to watch, actually, because it was like, you guys, this isn't right. You're struggling, and it's sad to see you struggle, to see how to relate to your partner.
If the affair does continue, do you think that Tyrone will be vilified more, and Alina even? Will it go down one of these kind of sleazy affair routes, or will we kind of feel sorry for Tyrone that he is so uncomfortable and unhappy and feeling so unfulfilled in his relationship with Fiz that we'll give him a pass or something? Because
the other thing that we haven't mentioned yet, and maybe when we mentioned it last, I think we did, but obviously this is not the first time Tyrone has slept or like had some kind of relationship.
That got mentioned in today's episode.
So when Fiz and Tyrone broke up
on a temporary break,
they were on a break, and he slept with Gemma, And I've seen a lot of people saying, how come this wasn't a big deal when he slept with Gemma? Because actually that's worse. Sleeping with somebody's worse than kissing somebody. The difference is that they were sort of split up at the time. And some people sort of saying that, you know, it's sexist for the show to make out that it's worse because it's Alina because she's more pretty, and it's, you know, it's not very progressive and feminist of them to say it's worse to kiss a pretty girl than it is to sleep with somebody who's not as pretty. But the fact of the matter is that by choosing Alina to go with rather than Fiz or somebody like Fiz, he's rejecting completely everything that she thought he cared about and everything that she thought was important to him. Like all of the hard work and the time that she spent and the care that she's taken, and, you know, raising his kid alongside hers and making her home, cooking him his humble pies and making piccalilli sandwiches, that is not as important to him as the fact that Alina's prettier. So that's why it hits differently. And, you know, I would put Gemma in the same category of looks, and I don't like doing this, but this is what the story is partly about, as Fiz.
Yeah.
And the show does this on purpose, and the wardrobe and the makeup departments do this on purpose. Because we know both these women, and I have to keep saying it because I don't want people to get the wrong idea, because I know that they love doing that. This is what the show wants you to think about these two characters.
Yeah, you mentioned the kids earlier, which is interesting that we've not really talked about them much so far, and they are really, really lacking from this story. They're very noticeable by their absence. Even during the big scene on Monday, it took a long time for Fiz to even mention them.
It raises the question of, you know, the obvious thing would be if they were to split up, then Fiz would take Hope and Tyrone would take Ruby. And
I feel so bad for that.
It's
because
really
Ruby
upsetting,
and Hope, and I know they have their
sisters.
arguments and everything, and one tries to accuse the other of arson and everything,
but they're sisters, you know, and they've been raised to believe, you know, that they are sisters.
Well, yeah, especially Ruby, because she's literally all her life
Never known anything else.
No.
And then to imagine that, you know, just because suddenly Tyrone feels like Fiz isn't making him nice sandwiches and is being mean about him, he's going to go off and split up the whole family.
They need to have the girls.
And Alina, is she prepared to look after?
Yeah, exactly.
Ruby?
But she's not even thought about it.
This is what really annoys me, and I'm really sorry. And it's not just women who do this; men who cheat as well. Cheating with somebody who's got a family and who has children, I can't see how you can defend yourself.
I know, totally. I very much agree.
I mean, it's bad enough if you've got a cat. Who does the cat go with?
I think we have said all we need to say about this storyline for now. Needless to say, very, 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 very much enjoyed it. Awesome job by all involved. Now let's move on to the Leanne of Duty story, which is also quite good as well.
Yeah,
Gemma,
but I feel like I'm running out of energy now.
I'll pass it over to you to remind our dear listeners what happened here this week.
So, on Monday, Simon tells Leanne that Natasha's back.
What?
And she comes into the factory, does Natasha, to see Nick, and it seems like the fact that they're living together is going all right. And she leaves, Leanne comes in, she's all wary and stuff, and she's like, oh, you look very cosy. And then she gets a beeping, and she has to leave because she's been summoned
Yes, it's a Harvey pager,
drugs.
Isn't it?
Sam's got the science fair, and
Natasha says to Nick, like, I don't have to go if it's awkward, because she...
Why? She's the mum. She was the mum before he came along. Why would it be awkward for her to go to a science fair? I don't get it.
Well, it was just about the, you know, Nick and Sam have been bonding all this time, the last couple of months.
Maybe she's saying, oh, I don't want us to look like we're the parents.
I think it's that.
Like the mum and dad, even though they are.
But yeah, because she gives him this lingering look when he...
Like, if only we were.
Which is odd. She has started
she
pining for
suddenly
him
decided that
out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I think she's just realised, you know...
We could be a family.
Yeah, we got a nice little setup here. He's been a super dad to Sam all this time, and I'm starting to remember why I liked him back then, and conveniently forget all of the reason why I
didn't like him.
Yeah, went postal on his whole family when I left.
Leanne is running into her car with an envelope of money. She's in the Freshco's car park, or maybe it's the hospital car park. You can tell these days. There's a knock at the window, and it's PC Rowland. Oh dear. He's trying, and she's like, oh no, she's got this envelope of cash in her hand. She's like, hide it quickly. And he's like, oh, hello lady. there's been some carjacking reported recently, and I just want to know if you've seen anything dodgy. Now, here's a point that Coronation Street hasn't made, but just perhaps you might like to think about this. How different is this to how Grace and Michael were treated the last time they had an interaction with the police?
Oh, yeah.
Here's Leanne actually committing a crime.
Yeah.
And the policeman's like, hello, nice white lady. Have you seen any crimes? And she's like, no, I haven't.
Well, she even makes a joke about it, doesn't she? She's like, because she stalls the car later. But the one and only scene that was in that segment of the episode that wasn't the Fiz and Tyrone scene is her trying to escape, and then she stalls the car, and he's like, have you driven this before? And she's like, oh no, I just nicked it, which I think was quite funny.
If Grace said that, would she get pulled out the car and arrested?
Yeah,
it's something to think about. So she's like, she leaves. It's a really awkward conversation because she's like, oh, I don't know where I am. I was trying to get to the motorway. And he looks at her like, you're in completely the wrong place. Like that. Anyway, he helps her on her way.
That just reminded me that the fact that that's one scene took the whole half of the episode, the Fiz and Tyrone one, it reminded me very much of that Len and Elsie scene back from when she just returned from America after was she dumped by Steve Tanner or something?
Well, she just didn't get on with the Americans.
This fantastic Elsie and Len scene where she opens up and that felt incredibly raw and realistic.
Yes.
And they have their differences, of course.
But this is why we're saying that Fiz and Tyrone really felt like a timeless scene as far as Coronation Street is concerned.
They need to do more. They need to do more like that more often.
Because it's
just dialogue.
I know we're talking about a different story and we keep going back, but it really just is such a simple story. And it's such a universal story, and even if you haven't been cheated on or are cheated on someone, you can still imagine that situation. Anyway, sorry,
I interrupted. Back to Leanne.
So anyway, Leanne goes back to the flat, and Harvey's like, well done, you passed your trial period. I'm very impressed. I think you need a costume so that you can blend in as a pillar of the community, like a postman or something. And she's like, no, I'm not doing it anymore. And he says, you haven't got any choice. I don't know whether he's pulling her leg here. I don't think you need a costume, especially when you're going to wear a giant coat over it so nobody can see it.
But this is what I thought, because it took until today for us to even see Leanne wearing this costume. I wondered whether Jane Danson was like, no, I'm not wearing a nurse's costume or something, because they covered it up so much on Wednesday. And even
when I sit, because I sit at my home office and I see the road and people walk up and down all day long. And the only time I ever really pay attention to them is when it's a nurse, because you do see nurses because they come and do home visits around this area because there's quite a lot of old people that live around here. And I notice when I see a nurse and I don't notice anybody else. So why would you wear a nurse's outfit? So I think he's pulling her leg. Anyway, she goes and pinches Abby's uniform.
I've written Abby's. Aggie.
It's actually Aggie's uniform off of the line.
Yeah, she gets the overalls from the garage.
Sam's presentation's gone well. If you were worried about that, don't worry. He wants Nick to take him to the astronomy centre as a reward, and Nick accepts because he thinks he's talking about astrology and he's just wondering how his year's going to go. The family bonding's going very well, and Leanne is watching them from the road, from up on high. She's given up spotting red vans. Now she's just watching happy families.
Yeah. What do you think that Mystic Meg would have in store for Capricorns if Nick went round to visit? As a
blonde lady will be visiting you too.
Wednesday.
Which blonde are you going to end up with, Nick? That's the main question. On Wednesday, Harvey calls in with another delivery. She's like, no, I don't want to do it. And he's like, shut up, moaning, get on with it.
I love that. He's got no...
He doesn't care.
...time for any moaning.
She is just like...
It's like, this is how we're doing it.
She must be the one that gives him the most amount of trouble out of everybody.
Yeah.
Because she still has got this middle classy privilege of like, no, I'm not going to do a crime. Whereas, you know what I mean? That's what I'd be like, no, I'm not doing a crime. I'm a good lady and lovely. And the police help me when I'm stuck. So, she gets told to do it and shut up. Nick and Natasha are chatting on the phone. And she says, I got Rocky V and hot dogs. Michael didn't like this, but I thought it was quite...
I thought it was Rocky versus something.
Yeah, well, I thought it was funny. Nick tells Toya that he's not making progress. What does that mean? And she's, who's not making progress?
Nick...
I'll have a word.
About trying to find out what's going on with Leanne or something. Yeah, Nick's trying to get to the bottom of what's upsetting Leanne, because he wants to move back in with her, doesn't he?
Nick tells Toya that he wants to find out what's going on with Leanne, but he's not able to. And she's like, I'll talk to her, don't worry. Leanne finds Harvey in the flat later. He's come round and he gives her 2 packages of drugs, and he sees her costume, and she's like, this is the last time I'm ever going to do this. And he's like, no, it's not. You're my drugs mule now. Just deal with it. They go outside together, and Toya sees Leanne get into the car with Harvey, looking really shady. So she goes to the bistro and tells Imran, and he says, don't worry about it, it's probably nothing. You should keep your nose out. Then we see Leanne getting off a tram, and a woman follows after, and this is one of the cliffhangers. Oh, man's collapsed at the tram stop, and you're a nurse, come and help. And she runs away. She's like, I can't do anything, call an ambulance.
Yeah, this is another thing where I was like, how can you tell that she's a nurse? She's literally, nothing about her appearance at the moment.
But she must have had her coat open at one point.
I guess so.
So, and then we find out the man has died later.
It's all Leanne's
fault. Nick asks Toya about Leanne, and she says, I saw her with somebody. It seemed like it was important, but I didn't want to interrupt. And Nick's very concerned about this. Meanwhile, we get Natasha talking to David about how great she's getting on with Nick, and he's like, isn't it just temporary, though?
He kind of says it in a threatening way.
Yeah, like don't get too cozy, because he's already sorted. So once Leanne's found out this guy's died, she's like, oh no. And Harvey's like, get over it. Don't worry about it. Because they're back in the flat together. And then Nick buzzes up, and she's like, Harvey, you've got to hide. And he's like, he looks really disgusted about this, but he does actually go and hide in one of the bedrooms. And Leanne's trying to get rid of him. Nick, he comes up, but he sees Harvey's jacket and says, who's that jacket belong to? It's not Simon's. Whose is it? And she's like, I can't tell you. None of your business. Get out. You need to go. And he gets all upset, and he's like, oh, if that's what you want. And he leaves. And Harvey comes in after Nick's gone and wants to get down to the business about the drug stuff. Then Natasha sees Nick in the factory, and she says, I want to know, what's the deal between us? Are we just friends? Are we
rekindling something here?
What's happening? I want to know where I stand. And he says that I do like you and everything. And she's like, well, in that case, you should probably start looking for somewhere else to live, please. Like that.
Yeah, he's not interested.
He basically rejects her, and she's like, well, fine then. If that's not where this is going, then I don't want you to stay living here. So Toya's like, ooh, interesting. Then Leanne gets another message with an address from Harvey, and she goes off, and we wonder where she's going to. We think she's going to make this delivery. But when we see where she's arrived, it's the police station. And she says, I'm here to report a crime. And she gets arrested. Because she basically says, I was dealing drugs. And they're like, that's actually illegal. And she's like, but it wasn't my fault. And they put her in the jail anyway. Nick goes and sees David. He's a bit drunk. He says he's been kicked out by Natasha. And David says, oh, maybe it was my fault. Weeps. On Friday, we get to see Leanne shoving in a little blanket in her jail cell, looking all worse for wear, don't we? Simon comes home, and he doesn't know where Leanne is. She's not there. She's left a message on the answer phone.
Why on the house answer phone? This is what I want to know.
Yeah, that's weird. That's actually weird.
Is this just admitting she doesn't know Simon's mobile number off by heart, but she knows her own house phone, perhaps?
That makes sense. She says...
Surprised Simon even knew what the little blinking red light on the house phone was.
She says she's got a doctor's appointment, which is a lie, because she's in an interview right at that very moment being grilled about drugs, and she's crying. She doesn't know what to say. The police officer's a bit mean. Simon goes and confides in Nick that Leanne's not coping, and that she actually didn't go anywhere at Christmas. She just hid in the house. And then we get to see Leanne talking to the police officer, and she says it wasn't Simon, he didn't do anything. There's bike stuff, threats, blah blah, telling him everything.
Yeah,
I couldn't report Harvey because I was worried about Simon. I just need to leave.
Does she know that Simon has been involved in dealing some drugs? Because he did that drop off for the lady in the car, didn't he? That was just the test, and also he obviously gave those drugs to Kelly as well. That put her in hospital.
Well, he's like, right, fine, I'm going to go and talk to somebody about this. Comes back and he says, you didn't tell us the whole truth about Simon. I need more evidence so I can shut Harvey down permanently. I need you to be our chiz. So yeah, basically he's saying, all I've got here is a bunch of drugs and a phone number that's not connected to anybody. There's nothing here that says Harvey is involved in any of this, so you're going to have to gather evidence for us to be able to prove that he's linked, otherwise you're going down. And you went, you're going down, like that. Simon, meanwhile, still worried about where Leanne is, and Nick says, what about that guy from yesterday? And Simon's like, what do you mean? What guy? And he says, I came round and she was hiding a man. And he realises that it's Harvey, I think.
Simon does.
Yes, yeah. But he doesn't tell Nick, I don't think. Leanne says, fine, I'll be a chiz. I know what that is now. She doesn't have any choice. And they're like, fine, we'll guarantee your safety. And I think they say she's not going to get in trouble. Because basically she's going to go to prison if she doesn't do this. So, and so will Simon. Harvey comes around to see her and he says, where were you? You didn't answer the phone. What were you doing? And she just kind of like tries to dodge the questions. She's really funny because she either hasn't thought of a lie or she's like, I can spy on people and I can deal drugs, but lies, I draw the line at that. Line of duty. Simon sees Leanne coming out of the flat and follows her. And she ends up in Kitchener Street, and then she stands there and she unzips her coat, like, the tiniest amount, like, a palm's width amount to show that she's a nurse. And somehow that makes it less conspicuous that she's standing in an alleyway with her hands in her pocket.
I just love that the alleyway she was just standing around the back of the cafe, wasn't she? I think that this is another case of we're not really supposed to know where it is.
No.
But that is round the back of the
cafe. You're always
cafe.
pointing this out.
I can't help it. In the brewery, so Roy was getting a delivery or something.
Yeah, he's like, this is why people love these bacon sandwiches, because they're all covered in crack.
I remember when Sylvia made those hash brownies, they went down really well with the customers.
Yeah,
so
have some more of those, please.
Roy's just been on permanent supply ever since.
So she sees that Simon's seen her and she freezes, and Simon's like, are you back on the game?
I love that.
Which makes me wonder why he links nurses' outfits to prostitutes or sex workers.
Well, it's just a sexy costume.
I think he's been on the wrong websites on the internet. He needs to go into something a bit more
wholesome.
Yeah, I don't think there is anything like that on the internet anymore. There is there. She tries to get rid of him. She's like, don't worry about it, I'm being looked after, you can't be here. They go home and she tells him everything about the fact that she's a chiz. And he's like, I know what that is.
I don't know what that is.
He's terrified. If Harvey finds out, they're going to both end up dead. So she says, Simon, I never gave birth to you, but you're just as much my son as Oliver was, and I will do anything I can to protect you. And he says, I believe you, but Harvey has got an extensive network of dangerous cronies. This won't be easy.
I like how it kind of, this story ended with those two as a united front.
United in idiocy.
It's been her going off doing her thing, and him doing his thing.
It's been basically the pair of them dropping each other in it for like months, and now they've got to the stage where neither of them can actually make it worse for each other, so they have to unite to try to get themselves out of all the mess that they've gotten themselves into.
Yeah, I do like this new angle of her being the chiz, because I think up until...
Can we not just say informant, or what did it used to be? Yeah. Why do they have to make up all these silly words?
Corey's not the one that's called me.
I know they're not.
I thought that with this story, I was starting to get a little bit bored of it, and I think it was because we were hearing about all the danger that Leanne and Simon, I guess, were potentially getting into, but we never got to see much of it. And I do think that Harvey is doing a very good job as a intimidating villain, and the fact that he doesn't take any nonsense from Leanne, and when she tries to pull out of it, he's like, no way.
I tell you what I quite like about... Sorry.
It just didn't... It's that the whole thing hasn't felt particularly dangerous, and I think we need to see more evidence of what Harvey's capable of. Like, we hear that Jacob's had his legs broken, but we've not seen any of it. We hear about Leanne going off to all these dangerous places to deliver the drugs, but we don't get to see any of it. Yeah, we got to see her shiver outside that street on tonight's episode, but I'm just not feeling the threat that Leanne's under.
It's because they can't show a lot of these things because of COVID.
Yeah.
But one thing I will say that I was going to say, which is almost completely the opposite of what you just said, is that I actually really quite like the fact that Harvey isn't just a cookie cutter thug of the week for Coronation Street, and he actually is quite a human kind of... he almost reminds me a little bit like of David if he was a drug dealer. Like the fact that he was able to be forced into the bedroom to hide when Nick came up.
Yeah.
And he just moaned about it. Like, you can imagine, like, one of these kind of, like, super villains of Coronation Street just sitting there at the, like, going, I'm not moving, you'll have to think of something. And, like, sitting at the table, like, cleaning their fingernails with a great big Bowie knife when Nick came in. And Leanne's like, oh, we just come to fix the lecky or something. But he just kind of, like, buggered off, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he kind of like the way that he kind of has a little bit of banter with her, or like he's like, shut up and do what I tell you. He's not like, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to cut your eyes out and feed them to your son. You know what I mean? He's not that. He's not like super. He's not like a cartoonish villain. Okay?
No, I don't.
But what I will say is, I think this is all a bit of a ploy on Coronation Street's part to kind of humanise him a little bit, so that when we actually, I think we're going to see him do something really horrible at some point.
I hope
and
so,
when
'cause
we
it's all
do,
talk so far.
when we do, it's going to be even more shocking, because we have seen a bit of a more human side of this character, and he's not just been just relentlessly villainous the whole time. So I think if somebody shows you a bit more of a human side, not that I'm saying he's a good guy, of course, he's not being portrayed as that at all. He's definitely being portrayed as a villain. But once you've seen somebody's human side, if they then turn around and do something very inhumane and shocking, it's even more of a gut wrench, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah, no, I see what you mean. I just hope it comes soon, because, like, it was just getting a bit so far.
I
think
it's good.
Darkness.
It's
If
a slow burn.
Kate Oates was in charge of this storyline, I think it'd be a bit darker at this point.
I think it's a slow burn with Harvey. I think he's in it for a long haul, don't you? I don't know.
Yeah, it feels like it to me. The story has turned a new corner now, and I'm enjoying the fact that Leanne's an informant. I think that's given a new breath of life to it. I thought the nurse stuff was quite funny. I was a bit confused about why Aggie had her uniform on the line outside number 3 when she's been living with Auntie Corona for the past couple of months. Like, is she coming back soon? And Ed's like, we have to clean up the house, have to do the washing.
Washing for 4 weeks.
Yeah, basically. But anyway, and would Leanne fit into Aggie's nursing outfit? I don't know. But
it reminded me of that scene in Austin Powers when Liz Hurley, what's her character's name? Agent
Vanessa
Goodknockers.
Kensington.
She goes in, they both beat up like a really fat lady and a really tall lady and go into the toilets and then come out wearing perfectly fitted clothes.
Yeah. I think, what do you think about the fact that Leanne is doing this for Simon? I think it's quite admirable. I like how she's proving that she's still a mum to him. That little scene they had at the end where she was like, I didn't give birth to you, but you're just as much a son to me as Ollie was.
That was an important thing to remind him of, because she really has not been very good at portraying that to him over the past few months.
Do you think that she should just...
This is what she should have done from the very beginning. Basically, all she's done is made it so that there's so many things that they've already done wrong that they really couldn't do anything else apart from go to the police.
Yeah, so it's all good. I'm not as interested in the slightest at the whole relationship angle of it, and like Harvey hiding, you said was kind of showing a bit more of a human side to him, but it was really to stoke the fires of the Nick Leanne Natasha love triangle kind of thing, and maybe Nick is going to fall for Leanne, possibly. See, this is the trouble. Not Leanne, Natasha.
I just want to say something. This is the trouble that the Coronation Street gets into, I think, sometimes, where they can't just have a story without tacking on some kind of artificial relationship drama. And all it does is seems to split their focus between what the plot is supposed to be and the relationship problem.
Yeah.
And this is why the Fiz and Tyrone stuff is more interesting to me, even though I don't generally like the relationship drama stuff, because it actually is a story about their relationship and about them and who they are as people and what their relationship is like in the show. Whereas you could take any characters here and, I just feel like there's something special about the Leanne, Nick and Natasha setup, which couldn't have been done given a few extra months for anybody else. She's just come back in the show very recently, it just feels like an artificial. It's like the Lego block building of plots, and you build a little wall, and then you just stick on the top. You just go relationship problem. We don't need it. We didn't need it in the story to make it interesting. It was already interesting.
Are you just assuming, as I am, that Nick and Leanne will get back together and it'll be fine at the end? I still wonder what's going to happen to Natasha, because I'd be sad if Nick couldn't be a dad to Sam. But it feels like the only way that he can be a dad to Sam at the moment is if either he's with Natasha or Natasha gets killed, which was part of our New Year's predictions, wasn't it? Maybe she's going to find
Harvey.
herself. Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's going to be the test, the show of just how dangerous this situation is. Natasha's going to be the victim.
I made a joke earlier about Nick picking which blonde he was going to go with, but isn't it kind of interesting that they both, Leanne and Natasha, have very similar hair from behind?
Oh,
blonde, short hair with a bit of curl to it.
So is
there a possibility that perhaps a rival gang from Harvey will see their drugs mule? At one point, do you think, I know what's going to happen?
What?
Leanne will be like, Natasha, we got off on the wrong foot here. I feel really bad about how I treated you. Come round for some wine. Drink the wine, have a lovely time. Oh, I prefer red. So do I. It stains clothes more, don't you think? Yes, it does. Oh, no. Natasha, I've just spilt wine all over you. How you can't go home like that? What can I give you to wear? How about this nurse's uniform that I use to do my drugs? And then she'll go home with a nurse's uniform on. And someone will be like, help me.
I quite like that theory. Natasha gets...
Help me, there's a man dead at the tram stop.
Natasha is some collateral damage.
That could work very well. Yeah.
Okay. Right, let's move on to the telesales and marketing story, which is we're on to the smaller stories now. The street talk's been going on for quite a bit already, but we're on to
because we basically had a mini marriage counselling session at the beginning.
Yeah.
Do you feel okay?
Yeah, I got our issues off our chest. No, you're all right for the time being. So Monday's episode kind of starts off with Sean and Gemma having a bit of a sniping session in the morning at the house. We find she's still mad at him for everything that he's doing with this MLM thing, and we also find out that this swishy car that Ridian's bought him, he hasn't driven yet.
He's renting for him.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's terrified of scratching it or something or other like that, and so he meets up with Ridian in the pub later, and I'm still loving every scene that Ridian is in.
It's because of his lovely voice.
He does have a lovely voice, but I just love how he is using he's so overtly using his sales techniques to butter Sean up, and Sean is falling for it. He doesn't realise at all. So he gets him talking about this dream house. In fact, Sean has found a very nice grade 2 listed building, and get this, Gemma, fake grass on the balcony like in a grocer's.
Oh my God.
It's a shame that we've bought a house already now, isn't it? Because if I'd known about this one, I'd have been,
Well, I mean, it's a steal for 350 grand in the centre of town.
Yeah.
And does it have how many bedrooms? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
But wow, what a price.
But he kind of gives up on that, doesn't he, later in the weekend, because he finds this Red Bank one. But anyway, I just thought the line about the fake grass was quite funny.
I have seen so many hideous. I don't want to offend anybody who puts fake grass in their garden, but why have a garden? I've seen so many people put down AstroTurf in their garden. I despair of you.
So Ridian encourages Sean
put down pebbles or something.
Ridian encourages Sean to keep his eyes on the prize, and is like, yeah, if you keep doing this, then one day I can see you there. And he just bigs him up about how he's the best salesman ever.
I know, it's so crazy.
Fake, but Sean can't see it.
How can you go from homeless to buying by yourself a £350,000 house with no deposit?
That's the thing. It's ridiculous, but Ridian is a very persuasive man. Sean gets a new partner in crime.
Did I say £350?
No, you said 1,000.
350,000.
Yeah. Okay. Sean gets a new partner in crime this week, which is Daisy.
Now this was great.
Given something different to do, because
not just
we're not talking about Johnny anymore. Who knows what's going on with Johnny?
And
at the moment.
Honestly, she's a psychopath.
What did she say to him? She just basically says somebody, I like ripping people off. There's all these Muppets in the world that I want to rip off. Sign me up.
I don't know. Just make me feel better, because I've seen people try. Like, I literally somebody tried to scam me just a minute ago by pretending to be my friend on Facebook, pretend to be a friend of mine, not pretend to be my friend. And I always feel a bit bad for them, because I think this must really wear down your soul to try to steal money off people all day long. But, maybe I don't feel bad for them anymore. If they're like Daisy, and she would be the sort of person who'd be sitting at home, like, cackling with glee.
Yeah.
Going, just follow this link and download this app. And fill in your bank details.
I think Sean just likes to not think about the fact that he's hurting people. He
doesn't think of it as ripping people off, but she knows exactly what she's doing.
Yeah. And yeah, proudly says it as well.
Yeah, that was I don't think people are normally that, what's the word?
Cutthroat about it.
Or even, I don't think so what's the word, where you realise something about yourself? Like, she completely understands that she's a psychopath, and they do, from what I've seen of people, they don't generally tend to know.
Yeah. So Sean tries to get Abby on board with double glammy later, but she points out that she's only got one lipstick that she only wears on special occasions. So Sean goes back to Daisy.
And that would be the red one.
Yes. Sean goes back to Daisy and tells her about this seminar that he's supposed to be talking about on Wednesday. Ridgeon can't come because he's double booked, so Daisy offers to come along and help. And I was kind of looking forward to seeing this MLM seminar, but like Leanne going off to do all her drugs delivering off screen and everything, we didn't get to see any of this.
It's not very COVID safe to have makeup sessions.
I know. It felt like, in non-COVID times, maybe we'd get a chance to see this, and we just had to use our imaginations and hear the account of how it went, which was all very well apparently. And Ridgeon, even though Ridgeon wasn't able to go along to take part in it, he knew what happened, and he comes in bigging Sean up, full of praise. Giving Sean this brochure for Red Bank Apartments, and says, I know a guy who's leasing these, so if you want to put your name down, then it's yours, basically. And it carries on doing very well, because 5 people have signed up later. Daisy can't wait to get on this herself and rinse some poor muppet, she says. And Eileen is not very impressed by this behaviour and Sean's new friend. And they have a little bit of a falling out, which is... They make up by the end of Fridays, don't they, Sean? Because Sean and Eileen unite in teasing Billy.
Yeah. I think that Sean's fallen on his feet here, because isn't it called a downline? So the whole point of these MLM schemes is not just to sell the items that you are given to sell. So you buy them off of the company, then you have to shift them for more than you sold them for. But the way to make money properly is to get a downline. And those are people that you recruit to sell under you, and you get a percentage of their sales.
Oh, right.
So he's fallen on his feet getting Daisy. If he can get her, instead of being his partner to sell with him, she needs to get underneath him, because she's exactly the sort of vulture who would be able to recruit her own little gang, and then Sean would get their cut as well. That's how it works. You filter all the way up. So she's also the sort of person who you can imagine has got a massive gaggle of like girly girlfriends who all are into makeup and everything, and you can just imagine her sitting at home on her Facebook going, hi babe, how you doing, been thinking of you recently, I know pandemic's been really tough for everyone, so just wanted to say to you, if you want to earn a bit more money in your spare time, why don't you try this new double glammy stuff, it's so amazing. I can get you hooked up right now with a really low amount of investment, and you'll be making loads of money like me soon. I sold so much, my friend's got a brand new car. Anyway, babes, just let me know if you want to make a load of money. Kiss face, bye.
I'm just glad that she's got something else to do.
Yeah, that
Daisy.
Isn't.
That's not bad-mouthing Johnny.
But if you were ever in any doubt as to whether she is supposed to be a capital B bitch, now you know that she is.
Definitely is. I enjoyed.
And we need people like this.
Yeah, I enjoyed her scene talking about how Sean got Violet pregnant, and she was like, was it a turkey baster thing, which I think it kind of was.
He didn't really explain it.
What did he say? He got to the airport but didn't get past the duty free or something.
That's weird. What do you mean? Did you use the Toblerone?
I don't know. Oh, grim. So
he basically spends all of Friday looking at sofas on the internet, which is kind of like what I've been doing recently.
Daisy is still coming across as very, very, very one-dimensional to me, but
no, I still like her.
I think that I'm just glad that they've given us something different.
Who was called a young Princess Di?
Abby. That was what.
Oh yeah.
That was what Sean said, and she said, "You want a smack?"
Brilliant
which is
response.
And I also like
They've already cast Kirsten Stewart in the movie, okay? So
I liked Billy's line about, was it Billy that said that Sean's going to get whiplash one of these days flouncing off behind the road as well. Anyway, that was okay. It was ticking along nicely, this story. It's not, it's not going to be the A story. It's not going to win any awards, but it's fine. It's a bit different. It's got some characters that we don't see very much of.
I'm really happy that they've kind of given Daisy something new to do. Like you said, I think that she's got potential to be a really good antagonist. There aren't very many of those characters on the street at the moment who are just antagonists for everybody. Todd is another one who's a major antagonist. But Coronation Street really needs people to be at odds with one another. And, Mike Baldwin was probably one of the greatest antagonist characters on the street ever, do you think?
Oh, yeah.
He's always in opposition. Whatever you wanted to do, he'd be there.
It.
Yeah.
With his cigar.
Is Daisy the new Mike Baldwin?
I don't think it's we can quite
She's
say
into
that
business.
Yet.
She does. She breaks out a cigar and starts drinking scotch.
Yeah.
Right. So the next story is the Trolls storyline. Would you like to say what the title is? So on Monday, what happened? So last week, she had secretly signed up to a website to make a comment on a story about Tracy and Steve raising money for the charity for Oliver to try to help to cure mitochondrial disease or find treatments and
support families that are going through it, that kind of thing. Yeah.
But at the same time, Tracy was like buying lots of things, and Kathy got annoyed because Steve wouldn't pay for his paper bill, which was £40, and she started wondering, what are they doing with all this money, and are they sort of not giving us money because they're saying they're poor, and then using the charity money to buy shopping for Tracy. Correct. So she goes online and she's like, oh, better ask them what they're doing with all this money. And then suddenly a flood of trolls come out of their caves and start saying,
trolls live under bridges, Gemma, not
they live in caves. You're thinking of the trolls that eat goats. I'm thinking of the trolls that go on the internet. So on Monday, she's starting to regret this because she's unleashed forces that she cannot begin to understand.
Well, she was kind of blaming it on being a little bit tipsy, wasn't she? She's realised
we've all
because
she overheard smack on the internet when we're drunk.
She's overheard Amy and the effect that it's having on her, hasn't she? And she's gonna find
also,
this lemon drop.
Amy's pledged revenge, and I think it's partly that. It's partly the fear of being unmasked, not just the effect that it's had on them. Because really, Tracy and Steve are like, well, they can all just stuff off. I don't think Tracy's the sort to lose sleep over somebody being mean about her on the internet. So Amy sees that this person who's secretly Kathy, called Lemon Drop, has posted again. And it's Kathy saying, oh, maybe I was too quick to judge. We all make mistakes. And Amy's like, that's it. This makes me even more angry. Backtracking doesn't make it okay. I'm going to find out who it is. Ardy helps her.
Oh, yeah, she teams it with Ardy, doesn't she?
This is what I said you should do. He searched the username and found it on a different website for sad people, apparently, with a picture of Wethy High in 1972 and another website banging on about foxes during the day. And she describes herself, or the person, Lemon Drop, describes themselves as a Weatherfield news agent. And Amy says the only person it can possibly be is Brian. Must be him. Ardy's like, I don't know. Are you sure? She's like, yes, I am sure. So, Brian and Kathy come back to the cabin later and they find somebody graffitiing the word troll over the window. And Amy's watching them going, ha, doxing works. There you go. This is what you deserve.
I didn't know I had to ask you what doxing was, so it's about revealing who the trolls are or something.
Doxing is when you reveal what somebody's real identity is. Yeah. So you reveal that this username is actually the person.
Right.
Yeah. And Kathy says to Brian, oh, look, I'll tell you what happened. So they rush inside and she says, oh, gosh, I was drunk. It's not an excuse, but it is a reason. I was slagging him off on the internet. And he says, okay, I will take responsibility and I will apologise to them and that will be an end to it. And because I don't want you to get hurt because I love you. And
that was like the
nicest thing that Brian's ever done.
It really is. That I don't love Brian and Kathy as a couple. They're fine, but I often don't buy them as a romantic partnership together. They're more of like a comedy pairing. It sometimes works and sometimes doesn't.
This was the most investment that Coronation Street had put into them as a believable couple.
It was just honestly just that one line that Brian said, I don't want to see you get hurt, I love you. It's like, yes, that's what I want more of.
Yes. I don't know why he did it though. It doesn't make any sense.
What?
Why did he say it was going to be him? It doesn't matter who it was, surely. You know what I mean?
Well, he just doesn't want the hate coming towards her.
Well, she deserves
defending him.
I know, but it doesn't make sense. Not really. It's just to add an extra dimension to the drama. So he goes round to number one. He says, "I'm really sorry. I'll make a donation for amends." And they're like, "No, I don't accept your apology." And Amy and Tracy are saying, "Well, now everybody knows who you are and what you are like on the internet, and it's never going to go away. Look up the Streisand effect. Don't look up Ash's boobs because they actually got that off the internet." On Wednesday, no customers at the cabin. Everyone's shunning them. Kathy's
this has happened very quickly, hasn't it? So many graffitis troll on the newsagents, and then everybody suddenly knows not to go and buy their Weatherfield Gazette there.
I feel like I don't care.
I know. I
don't really care. I wonder what she has been doing with her money. So they go round to nobody's coming around. Kathy feels really guilty, and Pachyderm Packham assures her it won't last. She basically points out that people are always doing stuff like this, and they can't be bothered to keep it up.
Yeah.
This is like when people say they're going to boycott Nestle, and then you see him eating a Kit Kat. Bernie comes in, and she says, "I'm on your side, actually, for taking Tracy down a peg or two, because she deserves it. Why don't you come with me and we'll have a drink in the pub and brazen it out?"
Yeah.
And so they turn up, but Bernie doesn't. And Jennie kicks them out. She refuses to serve Brian in the pub.
Yeah, I think she says she'll serve Kathy, but just not Brian. I didn't really like how... I kind of half got it, but it felt like it came out of nowhere a little bit. And they're trying to...
The shunning.
Yeah, the shunning. And they're trying to make out that Kathy, or Brian, I guess, is public enemy number one. And they just happened to be whoever was there that was shunning him for no particular reason.
I don't think Jennie... I mean, if Jennie's going to start picking and choosing who she serves according to their moral scale, she's not going to be allowed to serve anybody at some point. There's been more graffiti. Kathy sees Stephen walking along the road and says, "Please help us get Tracy to back down, because it's ruining our lives." And he says, "Nope, I'm not having none of this. It's Brian's fault for spreading lies about us." Then he comes around later to apologise with an olive branch. He's like, "Yeah, it's gone a bit far now." And Kathy wants to confess, and Brian's like, "Shut up, don't tell anybody."
So noble.
But this is just another thing where for some reason a silly lie has just extended the storyline artificially. That's what I think.
Do you think it would have all been, tied up had Kathy been able to confess that it was her?
It's going to be even worse when it turns out it's Kathy, because she's been pretending to be nice this whole time, and so not only is she a troll, but she's a liar.
Yeah.
It's going to be bad for Kathy. But it's very nice to see a story with Kathy and Brian in it, like you said. I think this is a really timely story. I really am enjoying this. I don't think it's going to be a massive story.
No. But it feels very kind of side story-ish, but it's a little bit different. Kathy and Brian don't often get stories.
It's really interesting to me because we both sit here every week and we criticise Coronation Street, basically. And we say things, why did they do that? Or, I didn't like the way they did this. They should have done this the other way. And where do you draw the line between that and what Kathy did, which is like saying, I don't know about this. Have we wondered whether this might be what's actually happening? So sometimes I feel really bad because I can be quite judgmental about people that go online and say negative things. When we say negative things all the time.
With the best intentions.
But yeah, at the end of the day, it does feel like more and more people don't think about how what they're saying might be received. And
I think that's the lesson that we're supposed to be learning.
Like, you don't necessarily need to say everything on the internet that you think all the time, especially if it's a negative thing. But at the same time, I'm totally against censorship. I don't think anybody should be stopped from saying what they think. And if you've got something that's critical to say about something, then you should feel
just think
free
before
to
you
say
post
it.
Because we see from certain Coronation Street actors who've been trolled or criticised or insulted, basically, on Twitter by people who think that they, just because these people are in the public eye,
they get to say what they want, and what they think, and that everyone wants to read it.
Yeah, that they criticise an actor's performance or
their looks,
or their looks, or just them as people human beings, and think that, and they even like at them into it, because they're hiding behind the anonymity of being online.
Just thoughtless cruelty online,
which is what Kathy's done.
So
although
prevalent.
I mean, Kathy wasn't. I don't know. Do we blame Kathy for this? Do we feel any sympathy for her going through it, or is it basically her own fault? I think she was a little bit tiddly, and she. I don't know.
I don't think there's a person in the world who's not said something that they regret.
Yeah. And this is just saying it online, isn't it? Where it is a lot worse, because like Amy and Tracy said, it's there forever now.
Yeah, and she's unleashed this kind of horde of horrible trolls now.
Yeah.
This is why I really like the storyline. It's really interesting to me. And I think the difference is when we talk about stuff, I do try not to call specific people out or say something negative about a specific individual person. Like, I won't say, oh, the director for this episode, blah, blah, blah.
I sometimes do, and you glare at me.
Well, there's no need. There's really no... I don't see the point of it at all, because who's never made a mistake, or how would we do anything different?
Yeah.
And it is not necessarily a mistake. It's just our opinions on things. And anyone can watch the same episode and have a completely different opinion. So it's not like anything we say really has any value beyond just a way of discussing what we've seen.
Yeah.
So... it's just really interesting to me. I just think everybody just needs to be a bit... I don't like this whole #BeKind thing, because I think it's just a way of forcing women to be nice to each other, and I think that's ridiculous. Women should have no responsibility to be nice to anybody. I think the moral of the story is don't be a dick, and I've said this before.
Yeah, Kathy.
You don't have to be kind, but you don't have to be a dick.
But where do you think it's going to go? I mean, it feels inevitable that Kathy is going to...
be outed again.
Yeah. But it'll blow over at the end, won't it? That's the thing.
I wonder how they're going to find out. Do you think Artie's going to do a bit more research, and he's going to be like, Lemon Drop's been posting a lot on this forum about menopause.
Yeah, will she confess? Because I kind of felt bad for her that she wanted to confess, but Brian censored her from doing so.
It is. I just think it's a bit silly that he said,
I think it's going to eat her up, because she's not a nasty person at heart.
She also won't like lying.
She's good, and she doesn't. She doesn't like seeing what's happening to Brian.
Yeah.
And she just wants to, get the whole thing sorted, really. So I think that she might admit that it's her. Right, onto the Todd storyline. So it's more of the same, really. The relationship drama between him and Billy and Paul, and who's Billy fancy at the moment. But Todd has noticed that Paul and Summer are still quite close, and he hones in on her and says, "Oh yeah, and also Billy is still holding the torch for Paul as well." And this goes. What's Todd's plan been? Just basically split them up, but it's not immediately obvious, is it? Does he want to go back with Billy, or does he just want to be nasty with Billy? I think his motivations are still...
Todd's very mischievous,
not clear,
and I think that he is quite a dynamic person as well. I don't think he's got any set plan. I think he just rolls with the punches.
Yeah, cause chaos wherever he goes. So,
like I said before, Todd is the Loki of Coronation Street.
Yes. Todd goes and invites Paul out to a hotel, fancy hotel. Well, it's supposed to be fancy hotel, but it was actually Ray's hotel, which is, the set's just looking a bit tired now, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks like a posh Indian restaurant from 2003.
Yeah, I think it used to look fancier.
I don't know what's happened. Have we just become jaded?
I think it's because I think partly it's because it's the set that they always use now. Like, if you want a fancy hotel, it's this set, and it just doesn't wow you anymore.
No,
and you start to see the dust of the cracks. Maybe
it's not like we've been to many fancy joints since in the last year that we suddenly just changed our opinion about what they should look like. I think I know that the thing is, it's not. It's an actual inside a building, isn't it? It's not like a set with movable walls.
No.
But somehow they still just look like they're going to fall down.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that is.
I know what you mean. So they go off to this meal and this hotel. Sorry, Billy sees them go and he's getting a bit worried about it. Todd's plan is to set Paul up with this bloke Jimmy, who is overwhelmed by how amazingly drop dead gorgeous Paul is. And is this not just a filter to make him look so handsome on your phone? No, it's the real deal.
I tell you what, those Korean beauty filters, throw one of those on Paul and no one could resist it.
Jimmy is he thinks he's the best thing since sliced bread. So there's just an awful lot of flirting and innuendo, and
there was lots of banter and really
a little bit NSFW kind of talk, wasn't there, about making the bedpost bounce or something? I can't remember what they said. It was a bit like,
honestly, the most overtly gay conversation that Coronation Street has ever had.
Yeah.
It was just three gay men, kind of, wasn't really no holds bars, because I know they can get a bit more filthy than that, but it really was just them just saying whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
And I think it was a Jonathan Harvey script. Wasn't it? The second one?
I can't remember.
The first one was...
it might be, actually. I can't remember.
I'm sure it was a Jonathan Harvey script. But just completely went to town on whatever. And I quite enjoyed it. I know some people thought it was a bit over the top. But I just kind of really enjoyed watching them just letting rip, you know? And I thought it was... one of those examples of like a conversation that I would never be a part of or ever hear unless they were being really loud and obnoxious next to my table. So it's nice to sort of listen in on it.
Yeah.
And they were being quite funny. I like banter.
Yeah.
And it was one of these pointless scenes. And Friday's episode was full of these fairly pointless scenes, but they're character building. Well, and that's what I like, and that's what I missed. That's why I liked old Corrie, because old Corrie was full of much more banter and much more just quips and teasing as well. Lots of teasing, and that was what Friday was mostly about.
Yeah, the stuff because Todd eventually leaves Jimmy and Paul to do whatever in the hotel and goes back to see Billy and Sean and Eileen in the pub, and that was another kind of teasy scene where they were making fun of Billy, and that was just nice. Billy wants to know what's going on with Paul and Jimmy, and Todd tells him, "Look, don't worry, just take a chill pill, it's going to be fine, don't worry about it." And then he ends up getting offended later, or pretending to be offended, when Billy tells him that he thought that he fancied Paul. So that was basically it, wasn't it? Just a lot more of Todd causing trouble. It was kind of fun. I still don't really know what his end game is. I hope that we get to see. It just feels like I don't know. Maybe it needs to come to an end or something.
And lots of name dropping queer as folk.
Yeah, there was today, wasn't there?
And Russell T Davies. Yes,
Russell T Davies got a name drop today. And also I did a little bit of digging as well on Corripedia, and the guy that played Jimmy, who I was sure that I recognised, and this can't be where I recognised him from, or maybe I just made it up, but he was in Coronation Street back in 2012 when he was it Kirsty's cousin or something like I said to you earlier?
Something to do with Kirsty, and he was a police officer. No,
that was in something else, I think.
Oh.
But anyway.
He's been around. I recognised him as well, but
it was fine. It was fine, this story. I think next week is where this is gonna build up into something else.
So what's he up to? So he's basically...
He's just keeping Paul and Billy away from each other. Yeah,
he's basically set Paul up on this date and really got them to enjoying each other's company, and then leaving them, and then sort of sowing a bit of doubt into Billy's mind, and leaving him and going off and having his massacre.
Yeah, he just hasn't got anything better to do, has he, at the moment, Todd?
I also really like that scene with where they were teasing Eileen about making moussaka.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
And she was saying she was a good mum.
And garlic bread.
And Billy, and it was Billy, Eileen. Was it Jennie?
No, Jennie wasn't there.
Who was it behind the bar? Sean?
Maybe.
It was just more banter, and it was just fun.
Yeah, it was nice.
I have to say, I do hate the word banter, but it's a very useful word in this situation.
Right, Gemma, you get your favourite story now.
Yay!
Kelly.
Oh, Kelly. On Wednesday, she's like creepy stalker girl.
She's got her sights. Yeah, she knows what she wants.
I want a daddy, and it's going to be Imran, and it's very inappropriate. So she sees him on Wednesday outside the lawyer's office, and she takes him for a coffee, and she's like, oh, please foster me. So they're in Roy's roles, and she's saying, oh, I'm so lonely, it'd be sick if you were my foster parents. And he says, I think the fact that your dad killed my sister might come up. Bit awkward. And she says, I don't think it matters. I'm going to say, in general, if you imagine how this would be written about in the papers, don't do it. If it sounds newspaper worthy, it's not worth the hassle.
Oh, but Imran and Toya really want to foster somebody.
I don't know why they want to foster Kelly. Anyway, on Friday, Imran's hiding from her, and Toya's like,
There were some really great Imran moments on Friday. The hiding around the corner was funny. The humouring Bernie in the cafe was funny. The marinated tofu reaction was funny. I did enjoy all of that.
Toya's like, this is textbook transference, and it's not a good idea. And as soon as they both started saying, oh yes, it's not a good idea, I was like, they're going to do it, aren't they? I know they're going to do it. So Kelly accosts Imran outside the lawyer's office, and they get into this three-way social distance kind of standoff while she's trying to convince them to foster her like orphan Annie. And Toya's like, oh, maybe, I don't know.
No, she says at the end, I quite like her.
Well, yeah, she says that after Kelly's gone off. So he goes around, Imran goes to the factory where Toya's doing very important work and says, I need to talk to you about this fostering malarkey. And she says, actually, maybe we should do that after we've eaten our marinated tofu.
I'm starting to warm to the idea of them fostering Kelly, and I still don't know about the character, and I'm not baffled, but so many people are saying that Kelly's a wonderful character, and I'm still not really seeing it yet. Lots of people are saying that she's a fantastic actress, and I think she's fine.
I think she's a brilliant actress.
I don't think we've seen. I don't think she's had any scenes yet where she's really had to. Give full-on mega performance, but the role that she's been given, I think she's doing a good job of it.
Well, the reason I think she's a fantastic actress is because every time I've spoken to anybody who has interacted with her, they've said that she's a really great person and really, really great person, basically. I can't say any more than that because I don't know the specifics. And the fact that I hate her so much makes me think she's good at acting because she's not playing that kind of person.
I'm starting to like her more, and I think that the fact that she was, just being so, she was quite cute about, oh, go on, please foster me, and the reaction that Imran and Toya are having to her and getting all excited again, a bit like they were at Christmas with little baby Mason, and getting all all giggly about the prospect of fostering her. That's making me think, oh yeah, maybe it would be quite cute, because I just like seeing Imran and Toya happy together. I still think it's odd that I thought that they wanted a baby.
This is the thing. And I don't know what they're in it for. I mean, they obviously want to help people.
Yeah.
And but it just feels like a very different ball game, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To foster a baby and then to sort of foster someone who is 16, is she, or 17? She's going to be out of the foster system in 2 years.
Yeah.
You're not going to be making any kind of impression on her personality or moulding her. I don't, this is where it becomes apparent that I don't know why people have children. But part of having a kid is they take after me, or isn't it funny they don't like that and I do.
When Anna
and I raise them and see them grow.
When Anna and Owen fostered Faye, it kind of became Anna was her mum.
Yeah. Yes, that's the thing. But I don't think that Toya and Imran are going to be Kelly's mum and dad. No, that's the thing.
They're just going to be there looking after us.
You've got to the bottom of what I was trying to say.
Yeah. Whereas if
guardians,
exactly.
And that's a very laudable thing. That's the kind of thing I'd quite like to do, because I can't imagine looking after a kid. But if somebody needs somewhere to stay, that would be quite a rewarding thing to sort of help them. I can just see, it's just because I kind of see they're going to clash over. She goes out and she's a tear away and blah. You know what I mean? It just feels like the teenage drama.
But it's going to be Imran and Toya scene, so I don't mind.
She's not going to want to eat tofu.
I hope that this is going to be the making of her for me, because it's like we said, everyone else says she's wonderful, so I hope that I'll think that too. But we've talked enough about her recently.
Yeah, I don't want to be too down on her, but I'm still not seeing it.
Finally, we've had a little bit more of the Who's the Granddaddy storyline. Michael's knackered because of all the time he's been going to and fro the hospital to go and see, what's she called, Glory. And Ed's still got his knickers in a twist about the whole fact that he may not actually be Michael's dad. But on today, when Ronnie comes round, it is apparent that we learn that Gloria is maybe anemic. Glory, is maybe anemic, and Ronnie says to Ed, well, you know, I've got sickle cell, and I'm a sickle cell anemia carrier, so it's starting to look very much more likely that I could be related to this baby. But Ed's
it's
saying
not that
this proves
he's
nothing.
Worried. He's not saying, oh, she's got what I've got, she must be my kid. He's saying, oh God, should we we need to say something because this is dangerous and I might have given her something.
Oh right, okay.
You know, this is like a horrible curse that I'm carrying and now I'm passing it on, and something that I was excited about, and I don't even know if it's the case. It could turn out that the way I find out is because I've given her this.
Okay. But yeah, Ed doesn't want to hear it, does he? He just orders Ronnie out.
But it's like, we don't even know, like he says, even if you have, like, it doesn't even manifest in children this young anyway, so it probably isn't even that anyway, so you shut up.
Yeah. Just need to get
Just
his
shut
DNA
up,
test.
he says.
I feel that it's not going to be too long before Michael gets this bombshell dropped on him.
Oh dear, poor Michael.
So yeah, it's a few stories there looking like they're a build-up for next week, basically. So, obviously, character of the week was Fiz. I said at the beginning, I completely stand by that. The way that she,
Fiz definitely for me too.
But just for that amazing scene, the way that she talked to Alina the next day, the way she was desperately trying to repair the situation, the openness and rawness of how she was speaking to Tyrone, and the honesty. I just thought she was absolutely
that
fantastic
bit where she was like, ta-da, we're going to Greece and get married, and Tyrone's like, oh no.
Yeah. Score
Horrible.
of the week. I mean, so some of the stories, like, the trolling story was all right. The Tully sales and marketing, all right. There was lots of all right stories, but luckily the Tyrone one and the Leanne one, which were the meat of the week,
Very strong
were both
week.
pretty good.
Because we've got them reinvesting in Tyrone and Fiz. We've got them showing that Coronation Street can still do these like really meaty, intense, character-driven scenes that rely on the raw talent of their actors. We've got like a bit of kind of glitz and not glitz, like the gritty drama of the Chiz, and trying to unite Leanne and Simon a bit more together. You got finally them finding something to do with Daisy, which I think is quite intriguing. And we've got the trolling story, which I'm liking, because I'm thinking, you know, it's another one of these kind of more relatable stories for me.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
And I really liked all the banter between all the lads in the hotel, in the Todd and the pool story. I think it was quite daring of Coronation Street. I think they really pushed. I wonder if they're going to get any complaints about that.
I wonder from the grannies, honestly, the pearl clutching grannies.
I think it was a bit of a step beyond what they've ever done before. And maybe I'm misremembering.
It felt like it.
And I certainly don't have a problem with it. I thought it was great. And you know, yeah. So and the Bailey stuff.
What's your score then?
I think I'm going to give it 4.
You're right. I'm not going to give it 4. I mean,
I'm going to give it 4 cupboards with knobs on, which is what Eileen might know as an oven.
Yeah, okay. No, I'm going to give it 3 Alinas smeared across the cobbles. No,
Only
sorry, 3.5. 3.5
okay.
Alinas smeared across the cobbles. I don't know what the half of the Alina is.
Well, it's, you know, obviously the guts.
So, yeah.
So it's Romanian raspberry jam.
Good week on the whole.
Really good, I thought.
Oh, there we go.
I know that some people didn't like it.
But
we had some comments on the Facebook group about people that didn't enjoy it.
Yeah,
but don't forget that you've got your opportunity now. You've listened to this and you don't agree with anything we've just said. You can write in and tell us what you think, and we'll read it out in the feedback section next week.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.